Hi everyone, welcome back to the Curious Coconut. Today, we're having a chat with Sam Bendat, who is the founder of SolvingZero. SolvingZero is a climate startup that aims to help people reduce their energy bills and find sources of energy that are more sustainable. Sam has had a very interesting founding journey, and the entrepreneurial spirit is honestly part of his DNA, because even as far back as his great-grandfather, his family has always been running and owning businesses. So join me and Thong today as we dive deep into what SolvingZero is and figure out what Sam has been up to. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Curious Coconut podcast. Today I'm joined by my co-host Thong and a very special guest, Sam Bendat from SolvingZero. Sam, do you want to quickly introduce yourself to our audience? Tell us about what you do and what your startup is about.
Yeah, sure. I guess first, thanks for having me. But yeah, I'm Sam. I'm the founder of SolvingZero, which is a company that analyzes a homeowner's energy data and then helps them save money on their energy bills, which could be like upgrading to solar, installing a battery, or just simply like changing energy plans. And yeah, so that's what I'm working on.
Cool. How'd you get started with this entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. So I've actually been thinking about this recently, and a long-winded answer to a simple question. But my old man used to run radio stations in upstate New York, where I'm originally from, and his dad used to run a bunch of companies over in Western Australia. And then his dad, so my great grandfather, used to run like dollar stores in LA in like the 40s.
Wow.
So like I think I've inherited some genetic trait to like want to start a business. So I think I didn't really have a choice. I was always going to be starting my own business, getting into the entrepreneurship side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why SolvingZero? What attracted you to the climate industry?
Yeah. So I quit my job in San Francisco. I used to work in the Bay Area for a tech company. And then I was in Mexico trying to figure out what I was going to be doing. And I just wrote on like a sheet of paper, like all the problems I cared about and what I wanted to work on next. I sort of just zoned in on climate change, the climate crisis, and then did some analysis of like parts of the US that like had opportunities to try and tackle the climate crisis, and as well as Australia, where I used to live before. So I decided Victoria was actually a really good testing ground for a lot of reasons. But we have like a huge amount of access to data for energy here because we're so far ahead in solar as well. So I thought, wow, okay, I used to live in Melbourne, and this actually is a place that's ahead of the curve. So I'll go back and try to build SolvingZero and test out some new technologies there.
Still kind of curious how SolvingZero kind of works. So let's say like I'm a homeowner, right, that wants to reduce my carbon footprint. So how would SolvingZero go about this?
So there's like an API, which is just a fancy term for like a way to access people's data for energy meters that are on everyone's homes. It's 99% of homes in Victoria have these energy meters. It's about 35% outside of Victoria. But we can access the data from this meter. We pull it into our software, do a bunch of calculations behind the scenes, and then build the user like a dashboard, so they can see exactly what their energy usage is. And then we give them suggestions of, hey, if you installed this type of solar system, you could expect this amount of return on your investment over like, 5-6 years. So it's really like demystifying all of those big energy questions based specifically on that home's actual energy consumption patterns.
So it's actually not too complicated to do, right? It's kind of like plug and play sort of thing.
Yeah, to get started as a user, all you have to do is just have your email address for your energy provider, and you put it into our app. We send you like a little password. You click a couple buttons, and you're in. It takes like maybe 20 seconds and a couple button clicks, and your energy data is completely connected to our app.
So do you have to have like solar panels installed in the house for the app to be useful, or can you make use of it without it as well?
No. So right now, the offering we have is without solar. So people that are actually shopping for solar would get the most benefit of the current state of the app.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I've actually had a lot of people come to me with solar already because 3.5 million homes in Australia have solar. It's the highest solar penetration for homes in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I've been doing a lot of battery analysis for those homes that have solar. So if they installed a battery and saved that energy to use later in the day, what kind of return on investment would they get for that battery? So I've been doing a lot of that lately.
Do you guys also do ROIs for solar panels, by the way? Out of
Yeah,
curiosity.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like the core product right now that you can just access on your own. The battery analysis I'm doing behind the scenes at the
Oh,
moment.
okay.
We don't have like a live feature for that yet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So homeowners will know when they get their return on investment if they were to purchase a solar panel of this size and then using it for this long, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's not like a perfect amount. It's like I can't give you like the percent
Yeah,
return
yeah.
on investment, but
Mm-hmm.
if you installed, so like a very standard system that people used to sell here in Australia was like a 6.6 kilowatts, which is a couple panels on the roof. If someone wanted that today, I could tell them, this is going to pay you back in around 5.4 years or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Um,
like giving like a general estimate rather
yeah,
than like an exact value, right?
yeah, exactly.
I'm just wondering, you mentioned like Victoria is really good for these solar systems. How is it like compared to like, other parts of the world like the US? Because you mentioned you obviously picked Victoria because it was really great for that. Do you want to talk about why you chose Victoria particularly and like what were the benefits here?
Yeah. I mean, so those smart meters here, 99% in Victoria. I don't know what the other countries and states are up to, but I would say Victoria is probably number one. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you get more than 99%, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
California, where I used to live, they're really big on solar, but Australia still outstrips California in solar
Oh.
installations, even
Mm.
though California has 40 million people and we're up to like what 25 or something.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So we're still beating them in that regard as well.
Yeah.
And it's more expensive over there. They just don't have the economies of scale that we have here.
Hmm.
So solar is just really cheap. There's like really good government incentives and rebates here to
Mm.
make it even cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah. And what exactly is a smart meter? Like how does that work compared to like a regular energy meter?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good question. The way I usually separate the two is if a person comes and reads your meter on your house, you have a dumb meter, as they call it, the opposite of the smart.
Yeah.
There are some tech that they can like drive by your house and gather the info, like just from like Bluetooth or something. But
Hmm.
smart meter is just connected to the internet, so I don't have to visit your home. I don't have to connect a device. I can just pull your data, from the comfort of my beautiful office here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like that just I'm assuming is uploaded onto some sort of server that the government controls, and then you can get access to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it works, pretty much.
And can like anyone get access to this, or do you have to have like certain like licenses or anything?
Yeah, it's a lot of licensing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, for like security purposes, which is understandable, you need to go through a lot of licensing and credentials to get access to this type of data. So I had to slog through that through months and months of work.
I definitely see the benefits of having smart meters, but is it really hard to set up the infrastructure? Is that why the other countries don't have it like set in place like Australia has it?
Yeah. I mean, it was a state initiative here in Victoria that,
Okay.
the outcome was 99% of homes having the meters. So other states haven't caught up. And yeah, I mean, you have to visit literally every single meter in that geography
Yeah.
to make this work. So, I mean, it could be a huge task for some states and countries. But I mean,
Mm.
there's China, like Japan, the UK, a lot of different countries in Europe, they're all installing smart meters as well. So it's sort of the way everything's trending because everyone wants to understand what's happening in the grid and they need more data to get to there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I want to move to a bit about the startup itself. Like, what was your initial idea for the climate? And like, is that still the idea that you're working on? Because I know a lot of times, people start off working on one idea, but over time it changes and it turns into something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a bunch of times. So the original version of this was in that analysis that I did about Victoria was the largest polluters in the country here in Australia are all the 3 out of the top 5 are energy providers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's AGL, Energy Australia, Origin, and Alinta.
Like, what do you
Um,
mean by polluters? Like, just general global
yeah,
emissions?
like their scope 1 emissions. So like what they're directly putting into the atmosphere.
Yeah,
Um, they are the largest polluters in the country. AGL by like a country mile. They are so
yeah.
far ahead in polluting. It's
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
And then I saw this and I was like, well, these companies are also providing energy plans to like
Yeah,
residential homes.
this
So
Mm.
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, so in a way you could empower yourself by like not supporting that company and getting, your energy from somewhere else.
Hmm.
It's going deeper into it. It's not that simple, but that was my like original hypothesis that people would be wanting to move if they understood this connection.
Wait, I just want
Uh,
to know, like, why are they polluting so much? Is it because they rely on coal to produce their energy?
yeah, exactly. And coal is by far the biggest polluter.
Oh,
So
okay.
as far as like our homes, because we're still hooked up to this grid, um, our portion of carbon emissions in our lives is always going to be the energy we use in our houses. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter how far you drive your car, excuse me, your energy that you use in your home is always going to be responsible for the largest portion of your carbon emissions.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. No, no, no. That makes sense. Like,
yeah,
even if
so
you wanted to, like, do something else, like, I think your energy, because you had so many years of energy usage from your home, like, yeah, that's going to be a big impact on your carbon emissions
yeah,
overall.
and it's all coal. Well, it's not all coal. It's about 60% coal, which is far dirtier than burning petrol in your car.
Hmm.
Yeah, but
Okay. So that was the initial idea. Like, how did it evolve over time?
yeah. So by coincidence, my mom had contacted me around this time, and she was saying she wanted a new energy plan. It was too expensive at her home. Can I help her figure out a new plan? And I was like,
Hmm.
easy. This will take me 2 seconds. And it didn't take me 2 seconds. It
Yeah.
took me like I was just went down this like deep rabbit hole of trying to find like a good affordable energy plan that wasn't part of one of these huge like emitting companies,
Hmm.
and it was like really hard to do. And I soon realized that to give my mom an honest answer, I actually needed her energy consumption data. Like I needed to know how much energy she was using throughout the day,
Hmm.
um, because there's plans out there that change pricing depending on the time of the day and all sorts of reasons.
I'm just curious, how were you able to do all of this? Did you just research this by yourself, like from scratch, or did you have like a background in energy?
Yeah, no background in energy. I've just
Wow.
always worked in
Okay.
startups and stuff, and I just saw like a bunch of problems that seemed
Yeah.
sort of interconnected, and I was like, I'm gonna try and solve this.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, because energy can get quite confusing. Like there's so many different things like the grid.
Mm.
And yeah, for a lot of people it doesn't make any sense. So good
Yeah,
on you.
I mean, they intentionally I mean, the energy providers make it intentionally difficult to solve and figure out
Mm.
because they sort
Yeah.
of they make their profit in that gray area where you don't know what's going on, and you just
Mm.
you choose whatever company you is most familiar, top of your mind at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, you were saying about your continuing your story.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I mean, that was basically the crux of it.
Yeah.
And I just, started digging into the data and went down this rabbit hole. This API where I can access people's data came out around that time as well. And I was like, oh, all these puzzle pieces seem to be falling together. I wonder if I can turn this into an app to help more people. And I just started iterating and talking to folks. And that's what got me to here.
Yeah. No, that's great. And how long have you been working on this now?
Yeah, so that conversation with my mom and all that like research happened about 2 years ago when I was in Mexico.
Wow. So you thought it would take you 2 minutes, but it took you like 2 years to figure this out.
Yeah. Talk to me in 18
crazy.
years and we can talk about 20 years later.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, we would love to do that. Hopefully we're still going.
Right.
Anyway, like what would you say are the biggest challenges you've faced in the 2 years that you've been running the startup?
Yeah, I mean, a lot every day. I mean, I was working just before talking to you guys on some things that just broke. So challenges today. But the bigger challenges have been getting the accreditation to access this data was pretty huge. I did that all on my own. Right now, like my biggest challenge is just trying to figure out how to monetize this. So I've basically built an app that solves a lot of problems and is helpful to people.
Yeah.
But I don't have a solid way to actually make it generate revenue because it's in a weird place where like you're asking a homeowner to, if you want to just charge them, you're asking them to pay money up front in the hope that they save money down the road, especially in like a crisis that like where people are kind of tight on cash at the moment. It's a really big ask. So I've decided to go with more of a referral model where everything is free, all the tools are free. If we help you install a battery and we're friends with the installer, this installer might give us a clip of that installation.
Okay. So basically, like instead of asking the customers for money, you kind of partnered up with these third-party companies that install maybe solar panels or batteries, and then, if like your customers recommend or like use their services because of you, then you get something in return.
Yeah. A referral model. But even like that, just going back to your original question, is like I'm still not 100% on if that is the right way. So just trying to figure out how to monetize all this has been a real challenge at the moment. Yeah.
One thing I just came up with is the way I understand the business model is similar to, for instance, if I want to listen to music and I don't know whether to choose from Spotify, Apple Music, that sort of thing, I can basically go to this business that crunches down the data, crunches down all like the things that each like music provider is good for, giving me an analysis, and then I choose one of them, right?
Yeah.
But then say like I'm already happy with Spotify, so why would I want to switch to Apple Music or something in the future? Is it like a one-time use sort of thing, or could it change in the future?
The way I'm building it now, it's more one-time use. So you get your analysis, you get your answers, and then you can go off and fulfill whatever analysis you ended up with.
And going back to your analogy, Tong, let's say you're with Spotify, but Spotify is like having a lot of emissions, and you want to care for the environment, and not pollute as much. So I guess that would be another way, like when you decide like, oh, I have been with this energy plan for so long, but they're not really doing the right thing. And I want to, get a solar panel or make more wiser or better energy decisions. So then you go and like change it to, Apple Music or whatever.
Do they fluctuate a lot, by the way, these companies, these energy providers? Do the prices fluctuate a lot?
Yeah. It depends which providers you compare, but even within a provider itself, there's quite a large fluctuation of pricing. So people, a lot of times older folks will not realize that every year they're being bumped up to higher and higher pricing. So if
really?
you're not, if you're not
Yeah.
looking at your energy plan once a year, your provider is slowly putting your
Wait,
prices
what?
up.
That sounds
Yeah.
like a scam. Like, how is that even legal?
Wait, so even though you can benefit from like the one-time use, you should keep using it at least once a year to make sure that you're getting like the best deal basically.
Yeah, I would say once a year minimum,
Wow, okay.
because your contract is a year contract, and then once
Mm,
that's up, the provider can more or less within reason do whatever they want to your pricing. So
what?
Yeah.
yeah, there's if you're with the same provider and you haven't looked at your plan in like 3 4 years, I
Yeah.
guarantee you're paying like 30 40% than you need to.
Wow. I feel
Mm,
like more people should know that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
cause yeah, you're talking about old people, but I didn't know that at all, and I don't
Right.
think many people do realize that either.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the reason, at least here in Victoria, they were really promoting like plan comparisons. So they were giving
Yeah.
out like free cash,
mhm.
$250 rebate cash to people in Victoria. But you had to access it through like their comparison tool webpage.
Hmm.
So they were trying to incentivize people to get onto this webpage and then, go through and assess, are they actually on the best plan for them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but another really basic question I have about energy is that why do prices fluctuate throughout the day? Because I don't think I fully understand that.
Yeah, sure. It's a good question as well. The energy mix, it plays a big part in that. So because we have 35% of homes with solar on top of their roofs, we have a huge influx of energy from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., give or
Okay.
take, a couple more hours. Energy is super cheap at that point. Um, Sometimes even free if you're on like the right plan. During the night, as the sun goes down, less energy. I mean, we still have wind, but like the coal starts to kick in. Pricing starts to increase as well. Um, so between those sort of like energy mixes and fluctuations of energy availability, the pricing changes in tandem.
Hmm. I think that makes sense because there's a lot of energy in the market during the day, prices go down, but as that like solar, stops working, you have to pay more to get the energy. And a lot of time people are coming home from work. I don't know, well, if that's still true, but you turn on the lights and stuff and heating in the evening, and that's when you're using more energy as well.
Yeah,
So
it's a huge problem. I mean, so we have to move all that energy from the middle of the day over to the evenings, to try and get us off all that coal that we're trying to use, at like 9 o'clock in the evening.
yeah, and that's where batteries would come in, except they're
Hmm.
kind of really expensive right now, so not a lot of
Yeah,
people are buying them.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
For your
Cool.
business SolvingZero, are you doing this all by yourself right now, or do you have like a co-founder as well?
Yeah, so I have three other people helping me
Okay,
out.
so it's a team already.
Yeah, yeah. They're more or less part-time, and I'm the only one going full-time. So two of them, or all of them, have full-time jobs.
All right.
But we all sort of pitch in it like asynchronously.
Mhm. Could you tell us perhaps about your how you met these people, how you brought your team together?
Yeah, sure. So my girlfriend is one of
Yeah.
them. So
Oh, okay. Okay, that's easy.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
I rolled over in bed one day and asked her if she wanted to work on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. And then I used to do a bunch of dev blogs on LinkedIn when I was first like trying to feel out this space, like a year and a half ago. And
Wait, what are dev blogs?
just like saying, oh, like, this is what I've been working on. This is what I've been coding. I've built this feature.
Okay, yeah, yeah, makes
I've got,
sense.
yeah. So I mentioned the API, like the data I've access to through the smart meters, in the dev blog. Another guy who was looking into that same sort of data access saw it, reached out to me. We kept chatting. Um, Eventually, I moved back to Melbourne, where he is here. We got like a couple beers, and then he's now like the CTO of the company after just like chatting and chatting together.
Wow.
Oh,
Uh,
great. Yeah, that's why you should share like your ideas and things you're working on because you never know, who might pitch in, or like who might be your next co-founder.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, you just gotta get out there, and
Yeah.
people will start to notice for sure.
Yeah. One thing people like to say is you shouldn't start a business with your partner or something like that. What do you think? What do you think of that statement?
Wait, what?
Um,
I've never heard of that statement before,
Yeah,
but
because you can get into arguments, right? That
oh,
I think
right. Okay.
that's the main argument for this is like if you do it with your partner and then you can't come to an agreement, you'll have like fights and it'll
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, I think it could go both ways.
Yeah.
Communication, I would say, like really open communication, even though like we both get frustrated with each other, and it's like, oh, why are you like coding that this way and not this way? And it's like,
Right.
well, whatever, like any sort of hot topic between a couple.
Yeah.
But you just have to like be like, okay, well, I didn't understand your approach. Like anything, like everything in a relationship is communication.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like even with co-founders, right? I think you have to be able to communicate effectively. Um, like if you just bottle things up and like not talk about issues that you think, just don't want to ruin a friendship, the
Yeah.
company is not gonna go, unless you're both being honest with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I guess that's true for like any sort of relationship.
Yeah.
I want to move a bit more to the energy side of things now. We already talked a little bit about it, but can you tell us like how, energy prices are going up? So how can people try to save more energy and make their homes more efficient? Do you have any tips for them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we touched on it. I would say change your energy plan if you haven't done that in a while, or
Yeah.
just have a look at the very least. It doesn't take that long. There's a lot of comparison tools out there, so just take your pick. The government has a couple great tools that are super trustworthy. Um, and as far as like making your home more energy efficient, there's a lot of low hanging fruit that's also really easy to do. When I first moved into my house, this is a rental. I bought a bunch of little installation strips on Amazon. It's like 10
Hmm.
bucks for like 5 meters of installation. And I just went around all the windows and like door frames that have like these huge cracks in them because this house is like 100 years old, little
Yeah.
weatherboard house,
Yeah.
and just insulated all the cracks in the windows and doors. And like, it's not a huge change, like for a single day, but over a year of like trying to keep this place cool in the summer and hot in winter, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, because I think a lot of buildings in Melbourne are fairly old. And like even when I was living in my old rental place, um, there's always like wind coming from somewhere. Like I don't know what,
Yeah.
but like it was always cold. Like no matter how much I turned on. Um, yeah, I didn't know you could buy these insulation things. So, because yeah, a lot of people are living in rental in Melbourne at least. And you can't make major changes to your house, but I guess you can insulate it and preserve the heat.
Yeah. They're super cheap. Also, it's just like a little plastic adhesive on one side. So, you
Oh,
can just rip it off when you leave if you're worried about, your landlord chasing you down or something.
hmm. What would you say like in terms of compared to the rest of the world, how Australia is doing in terms of its energy, and climate goals?
Yeah. Historically, not great. We were sort of behind the ball in a lot of ways, just because like the previous administration, political party here just didn't really care. I mean, they were 100% coal. I mean, I think we all remember ScoMo bringing in a huge chunk of coal into Parliament at one point. Since then, a lot has changed. Now we have some climate goals. Reduce carbon emissions by 43% by 2030. So we're 6 years away. Ambitious. We'll see if it happens. But a lot of money has been invested into green energy, to financing for green energy recently. So it's starting to pick back up, but
Hmm.
we're seriously behind now, I think, in many aspects.
Yeah.
Behind compared to the rest of the world, or
Yeah. I mean, just like the US, the usual countries we compare ourselves to,
yeah.
parts of Europe. I mean, the like EV infrastructure in the US is just like years ahead of Australia.
Yeah.
The amount of EVs here in Australia is like shockingly low compared to other
Yeah,
countries.
because I think the major thing with EVs is like the superchargers, right? Um, unless the infrastructure is there for the superchargers, no one's really gonna buy an EV. Whereas like in the US, the infrastructure is much better for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like range, I forget what the term is, but like the fear that your car isn't going to get to the range that you need it to is still like a big problem here.
Yeah.
Aren't most of the batteries from Australia for the EV cars? I think I've read it somewhere, right? That the
Maybe like the raw minerals. I'm not
yeah,
too sure, but we don't have like a huge manufacturing
right.
industry here as far as batteries go.
Yeah, okay.
Not yet. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, not yet. And yeah, like one of the things he says, like 2030 is only 6 years away. I feel like
Yeah.
that's like not a lot of time.
Yeah. We really have to like haul ass in the next 6 years.
Yeah, because I don't know why. It just feels like 2020 was like a year ago or something, and then 2030 is only like 6 years away now. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, COVID sort of warped everyone's perspective of how like years go by.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a part of me is still stuck in like 2019 when everything was normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we'll see how we go. Overall, what would you say is your vision with your company, with Solving Zero?
At the moment, yeah, it's really just trying to get those residential users to save money on their bills. And then like an extra added benefit of that is usually you lower your carbon emissions. Because if you're installing solar or battery, you're less dependent on the grid, which is, 60% coal. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of like the driving force is save people money and help them lower their emissions. Into the future, there's a bigger play where I think I mentioned it earlier, like having all these smart meters on the houses is collecting all this data and it's informing how the energy grid outside will be built and respond to energy fluctuations throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we can only really make those decisions if we have all that data available. So I sort of see SolvingZero positioning itself somewhere within that sort of data puzzle, trying to access and make available all this data so we can, if someone next door has solar on the roof, but I only have an electric vehicle in my garage, how does that person help me charge my car during, the afternoon? And then later at night, when my car has more power in it than it needs, how do I give some of that back to my neighbor who helped me charge the car?
Yeah, I guess like as like more and more EVs become part of the like fleet, I guess they can have a huge impact on the energy grid itself, right? Because they're basically like a walking battery, a portable battery that you can drive anywhere. And if you can somehow use that storage space to also power the home, um, and like use it for the grid, that can have like major improvements
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah. I mean, that's like sort of the $1 trillion problem when we think about like this energy transformation is, yeah, like think of a parking garage. If a parking garage in 10 years is full of electric cars, that's the biggest battery in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could power a huge amount of offices or homes or something. So it's how do we balance all of that potential energy and disperse it out, which doesn't like completely blow the grid up because it's like a super battery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's all data. It's all like I mean, it gets informed by the data. So I feel like the data is a really important puzzle piece here. And that's where I kind of want to be at.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of marketing, how does SolvingZero market itself to its customers? How do you go about reaching out to people that could become potential customers, that is?
Yeah. I don't have like the perfect answer, but I've been trying a lot of different different channels.
Yeah.
There's a really popular Facebook group called My Efficient Electric Home here in Australia. It has 120,000 really
wow.
active members, like crazily. Like every post gets like at least 50 comments, if not
That's
hundreds.
crazy.
I
Yeah.
didn't know about that.
Yeah. So I post every fortnight. I'll do a newsletter, and it's an analysis of different parts of the house. So like if you want to learn, like, you know, what does a standard home use in a day, and like what are their emissions for that day, I do like analysis like that, all sorts of different things. That's just one example. I create that analysis, and then I post a teaser in the Facebook group, and I link my newsletter and say, oh, if you're interested in reading more into this analysis, subscribe to my newsletter. So that's been pretty
that's great.
successful for me. So I've got a couple hundred newsletter subscribers after doing that a couple times.
Wow. I didn't know people were that enthusiastic. You said a couple 100,000 people in this group?
No,
Yeah,
it's
120K.
120K.
Yeah, 120K. Wow, that's that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, like I don't know if there's that big communities on Facebook.
Yeah.
And they're active. But yeah, I guess it might be a bit of the older generation, right? Especially if they're trying to fix their houses, because they're
Yeah.
generally people who are owning houses. So makes
Yeah.
sense that they'd be on Facebook.
Right.
All things considered.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a TikTok My Efficient Electric Home yet.
Yeah.
Dance
But yeah,
to it.
like
So
I think most people that are on
right.
TikTok can't afford houses anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, also, like, what are some success stories, or like, have you had many customers, like using your application and, like, finding it useful?
Yeah, so I did like a soft relaunch last week, and I had like 15 users come in, which is pretty big for me.
Yeah.
But they're all able to like successfully connect their energy. You know, I was chatting with them, testing it out. And I really just lean very heavily on my newsletter subscribers for that. But I constantly keep like relaunching with people and trying to chat with them, which is, you know, sort of like the ethos of the lean startup kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And what kind of things do you usually talk about in your newsletter?
Yeah, like energy efficiency things. So
Okay.
there's a new kind of plan out there called a demand tariff, which is super confusing. I won't go into it, but it's been in the news a lot because people are like getting crazy bills that they didn't understand. So I wrote about that just to like demystify what that actually means. But then, yeah, I can super complicated analysis. Like if you installed a battery with this type of solar system, this is what the return on investment would be for this exact kind of home. So
Okay.
it's like a whole spectrum of topics people might be interested in.
oh wow.
And is it like mostly for Australian people, or is it like kind of global energy things?
So yeah, it's specifically meant for Australians just because
Okay.
that's my target market. But
Yeah.
I've got a couple of readers. I had like a guy in California contact me and be like, "Oh, I love the newsletter. Let's chat." And he was like telling me all about his ranch out in like the mountains of California. And I was like, cool. Like,
That's great.
yeah, kind of like pretty far away from what I'm working on, but happy to
Yeah.
chat nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's good though. That people are interested in what you do. And knowing that people are interested in what you do is I guess really, really good. Really good to hear as well. But
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks.
Okay, I think now we can head to the closing section of the podcast. We have been
Yeah.
going for a fair bit. There's like a few questions that we generally like to ask our members. Um, but the first one is like, a lot of our audience members, they want to start their own business or become an entrepreneur. What is some advice that you can give them that would help them along their journey?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess the advice would change depending on how deep they are into the journey. But I guess some like blanket advice would be just keep trying, keep going at it, like keep having a crack. Like if you know something's not working out the first time around, just keep iterating. dig deeper into the problems. Also try and like reach out to experts in the field that you're interested in, chat with them, see what they think. I mean, it's really like just like the quickest way to get informed about the problems and the space you're in when you start talking to experts.
Like, yeah, I think I agree because experts can, if especially if you're starting out, you might not have a lot of knowledge in an industry, but if you can find an expert who does, like they can help you avoid obstacles that you might face or mistakes that you might make, if you just have a talk to them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's lots of programs out there as well. Some are free, some you have to pay for, some they give you money if you're lucky enough. Those are great ways to meet people in your space. It gives you a framework of how to, work through your problems. Yeah, so that's also another little tidbit I would put in there too.
Yeah, join like the accelerator or like other startup communities
Yeah,
so you can meet other people who are doing the same thing as you, or you want to get some other ideas.
totally.
Yeah. Another question we like to ask our guests is whether they have a personal favorite book or favorite podcast that they could recommend to our other listeners. Do you have
Yeah,
any in mind? Yeah.
Yeah, this is my favorite question. So whenever
Yeah.
I go, so I used to work for like startup grind where we would
Yeah.
interview like CEOs and founders, and this was always my favorite question because I always wanted to know what people are reading and listening to.
Yeah.
So the book I would choose is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman,
Okay.
um, which is like leading behavioral economist. It's a pretty popular book, so I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great for just like reasoning, reasoning just everything you're doing, but also like understanding how other people are reasoning, like in the conversations you're having, or like why they're doing certain things. It's great. And podcast, Think Fast, Talk Smart, which is run by a professor of the Graduate School of Business at Stanford. And it's all about how to communicate through different parts of your life, through like business, with your partner, in giving, doing a podcast, speaking to audiences. It's all about like the methodologies of communication and just like how to be a better communicator. It's great. Super recommend that one.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that would be good, but good for us especially because we do podcasts all the time. Maybe we can
Yeah.
get some tips um,
Yeah.
on how to make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the book Thinking Fast and Slow. I think you're the second person or the third person now that has recommended the book. So I guess we have to read this now, Aadi.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a book review episode for
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sometime
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah. It's a classic. It's like, whatever, like the 1984 of like business books or something that
Okay.
everyone's read or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
I would highly recommend it for sure.
that's great. And one other question I'd love to ask is what is something that fascinates you about the future? And I'm gonna add a caveat. You can't say AI because like
Okay.
so many people say AI. Gotta use your brain a little bit harder. Come up with something new.
Yeah. Something that it was excites me.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
exciting to you.
Yeah, I guess we touched on it. It's sort of that like balancing of the energy grid in the future.
Hmm.
Um, it's if we make it work, which I'm not 100% sure if that's going to happen, but it will just change the way energy is used in our lives. Um, and yeah, for the reasons I said before, like the neighbor down the street has that EV, maybe they can give you some of that energy to charge, to turn on the oven when you're cooking dinner at 9 p.m. But
Hmm.
like nothing, at no point do you even know that's happening. It's just all behind the scenes, which is like a total reversal of how our energy gets to our homes right now. I mean, our energy
Yeah.
just gets pooled into this giant generators and distribution grids, and it just gets sent out to all these homes. It's like really pretty archaic in relation to like what the potential could be in the future. So yeah, it would be like pretty high tech, like futurology kind of stuff if we could pull that off.
No, I think there's a lot of stuff going on because I was at an event like maybe a couple of weeks ago, It was like for smart batteries. It was like a kind of a pitch competition. Um, so basically, like these teams, they were trying to build the best algorithm to make the battery most efficient throughout the day. So it would decide like when to charge, based on the different weather patterns and based on the usage of the energy and when to disperse that energy. So yeah, I think that was just for one battery. But if we can do it for the entire grid, optimize it so it's like, you know, most efficient all the time, I think that could really help us save a lot of energy and meet our climate goals.
Yeah, yeah. It's an insanely complex problem.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm optimistic we might get there, but well, yeah, we'll see what happens. Really, some really smart people have to get into this space for
Yeah.
it to work out.
Yeah. No, I believe we can do it. I believe in humanity.
Yeah.
So we got this. We can do it.
Okay, well, I guess that's the end of the podcast. To conclude, is there anything you would like to share with our audience? So this could either be a plug or something, like details or like a website or something that you would want to include in our description box.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're in Australia, head over to SolvingZero and try out the app. It's live now. We do have some issues that we're working on, but yeah, it works. If you want to just stay in touch, there's the newsletter. You can just get the information about how to optimize your home. Or if you just want to chat, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Always happy to just chat with folks. It doesn't have to be energy related. I've worked in other parts of startups as well, just besides energy. So always happy to chat about anything.
All right.
Awesome.
Sounds perfect. We'll include all your links. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming on the podcast once again. And we hope you've enjoyed.
Yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate it. It's been great.
Yeah. We'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.